This is Linux in Laws, a podcast on topics around free and open source software, any associated contraband, communism, the revolution in general, and whatever else fancies your tickle. Please note that this and other episodes may contain strong language, offensive humor, and other certainly not politically correct language. You have been warned. Our parents insisted on this disclaimer. Happy, Mum? Thus, the content is not suitable for consumption in the workplace, especially when played back on a speaker in an open plan office or similar environments. Any minors under the age of 35, or any pets, including fluffy little killer bunnies, your trusted guide dog, unless on speed, and cute T-Rexes or other associated dinosaurs. Welcome to Linux in Laws, Season 1, Episode 92. Martin, how are things?
Yeah, things are still pretty frozen, but apart from that, all is well.
You didn't pay your electricity bills in that case?
Well, I'm trying not to pay our friend in the east, yeah.
You mean Greta? I'm not
No,
sure how
she's in the north, isn't she? Isn't she from Sweden or Norway or something? I don't know.
No, actually, she's from Sweden, yes. That puts her into the northeastern corridor of Europe, if I'm not completely mistaken.
Yeah, you keep going further in the easterly direction, yeah. What about yourself?
Can't complain, Martin. All hunky-dory as usual. But this is not a show about... Well, we haven't mentioned politics so far.
No, we haven't.
Yeah,
That was a special request,
Martin,
not to mention politics.
Hang on. You want to shed some light on the recent Netflix developments with regards to what are their names? The defects.
Netflix? What are we talking
Harry and Meghan, yes. Or was it Milton and Meghan? No, Harry and Meghan. Of course.
Oh,
yes.
them. Yes, what about them? I'm not up to date with this kind of news.
Hang on. You do have a Netflix subscription, don't you?
No.
I thought you did.
No.
Apparently,
I never have. Never will either.
Well, there's nobody denying it anyway. It doesn't matter. Okay, no.
Are you looking for another job again?
No. I'm not looking for a job.
Sponsoring, yes. Netflix, if you're listening. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Email address is sponsor@linuxinlaws.eu. No, jokes aside. Apparently, what the media tells me is in the press that Harry
you want to believe what's in the media.
have launched a Netflix series, Spilling the Beans.
Okay.
You being the monarchist between the two of us. I'm just wondering, Martin, what is your opinion on this? If you haven't watched
I'm sure I guess they need some money now, don't they? They're no longer having an income from their status, let's put it that way. Yeah.
Well, as I said, Martin, you're the monarchist between the two of us, so anything goes. Just say it.
Yeah, I actually watched some episodes of that. Yeah.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Okay. Sorry. Before we go any further, we should introduce our guest. Sorry.
Yes.
And then we can discuss any Netflix series.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Mark, why don't you do your honors?
Oh, yeah, sure. So tonight we have Uwe Ziegenhagen, if I pronounce that correctly.
Yeah, that is more or less correct, yeah.
Okay, very good. And rather than me saying a lot of stuff about you, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah.
And please start with the Netflix bit.
Netflix?
Does he work for Netflix as well? What's going on here?
I do not know.
I do not work for Netflix. Okay, my name is Uwe Ziegenhagen. I'm from Germany, more exactly from Cologne. And I've been working with the LaTeX or tech community, I guess, for the last 23 years or so. So that's probably the time I've been involved in this project, more or less. And today I would like to speak about what is this tech, what is this LaTeX, and what does Donald Knuth has to do with it.
Yeah, but...
So can I just interrupt you for a second? Because I just want to clarify what LaTeX is. Do we not call it LaTeX? Or
no, we call it LaTeX.
Before we can go there, just on the subject of Netflix, if you've watched any of these episodes, 2 sentences, please.
Just Netflix episode.
We can cover the technical bits later on, no worries.
Okay.
Just go for it.
Yeah. I liked the episodes of Harry and Meghan. It was quite interesting to get an insight into that. And
why?
Because maybe it shows a different side. But I mean, my general opinion on the royals and on Harry and his brother are, how do I say it? I pity them, or I mean, they have grown up in a world where they cannot avoid the media. And my wife and I, we watched the series, the first 3 episodes, and I guess I watched 2 of them. And I said to my wife, "I'm so happy that I'm not in the light of the media." So, and that is...
you see, if the research I've done on your last name isn't Ziegenhagen is anything to go by, you descend to the 10th order of this Anglo-Saxon royal house, if I'm completely mistaken.
I'm pretty sure you're completely mistaken.
Okay, fair enough. Happens all the time, as Martin keeps telling me.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
because
jokes aside, I mean, Ziegenhagen goes back to ancient, and there's a connection, if I'm completely mistaken. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
My family descends from Prussia, from the eastern part of former Prussia, now Poland, and I'm pretty sure I'm not related in any way to the royals of England.
You want to go back about 1,000 years, give or take? If you are really serious about this Prussian connection.
No.
Okay, fair enough.
No, but my family has always been peasants, and I'm pretty sure none of them was a royal or a king or whatever.
Okay, in that case, let's venture on to much safer grounds in terms of LaTeX. For these 2 people in the audience who do not know what LaTeX/tech is, perhaps you can give a very short overview of the history of these 2 projects.
Sure. Okay, first of all, there is a very famous informatics professor at Stanford, whose name is Donald Knuth, and who also has some descendants from Germany. So he has a little bit, at least, of German heritage. So he's very, very famous for his works on theoretical informatics. And during the 60s, he wrote some books. So the art of computer programming, that's what he was, or what he is very well known for, what made him famous. And that was the time when the printing industry switched from lead-based typesetting to some optical light setting using linotypes, etc. And so for one of his volumes, he got the prints, so some test prints from the printer, and he didn't like what he saw because, in his opinion, the printing quality was way below what he wanted to have. And that's when he came up with the idea, why not use the computers that he had at the time to implement a system to allow typesetting in a way as a real printer would have done manually. When you look at very old books that have been printed by some craftsmen in printing, they look very, very nice. And that's what Donald Knuth wanted to implement with the help of computers. And that's how tech came to life. So for him, I guess his original idea was to spend just half a year of his time on this project, and in the end it was a couple of years until he had tech at the stage where it was very well usable. That is tech, the typesetting system. It should not be mistaken for LaTeX. What LaTeX is that is what most people nowadays use. This is a collection of macros, and that help you to use tech in a more user-friendly way. And this LaTeX, that was implemented by Leslie Lampert, who has been with Microsoft Research, I guess, for the last 20 years. So that's the big difference. Tech is the underlying typesetting system that you can use to write some documents, but normally you wouldn't do that because that is way more complicated than working with LaTeX. So when you talk that when you say that you are a tech user, that you mean in 99% of our cases that you are a LaTeX user, a user of the LaTeX typesetting system.
And perhaps we can go into, okay, of course, before we go any further, full disclosure, details, probably maybe in the show notes. I wrote my first 2 books with LaTeX, and I also wrote my PhD thesis with LaTeX, but you're talking about 30 years back.
Yeah.
The thing is that LaTeX then was at a version called LaTeX 2E. People were already talking about LaTeX version 3, but apparently development has stopped. Okay.
No, the development has not stopped. Because right now there are a couple of developers working on the next version of LaTeX. But it is not a jump in the version number like from LaTeX 2.09 to LaTeX 2E, but this is a rather incremental step. So basically, when you use LaTeX today, you will most probably use some packages that have been written in a LaTeX 3 way or in a next version of LaTeX.
And before we go even further, Uwe, maybe we should explain what the different versions are and what packages in a LaTeX context are, because you cannot expect about, I reckon, 2% of our audience to be LaTeX experts. So we clarified the tech and the LaTeX correlation, fair enough, but now is probably the time to give a very short overview of the history of LaTeX as such, being that macro packet extension on top of tech.
Yep. Basically, you have the tech underlying system. You have LaTeX, that is the collection of macros that Leslie Lampert implemented with the help of others. And then you have a huge collection of packages that are written by very, very different authors. And most of these packages land on C10. That's the Central Tech Archive Network. And everything is plain text. So whenever you want to use a package, you can look inside the tech source code that was used to write those LaTeX packages. And a LaTeX package is simply an extension to the LaTeX environment. So if, for example, you would like to have a specific style to document, to create a presentation or to create a certain letter format, then you would probably use one of those packages.
You mentioned style.
There are no more style. There is not this document style anymore that you may recall from 30 years ago.
Yeah, my experience with LaTeX is indeed more than 30 years ago. I think something like that.
Then whenever you think about document style, that was replaced probably 30 years ago by document class. And usually this document class is the first command that you put into a LaTeX file that simply tells the LaTeX compiler what you want to write, because it makes a huge difference if you want to write a presentation or if you want to write a book of 1,000 pages.
Okay, so when we're talking about compiler, so we're let's say a LaTeX file is a set of instructions. Is that correct?
Exactly. That is completely fine. What I usually do, or what I usually use as a comparison, when you are looking at an HTML file, you see the content, just a plain text that you want to show on the internet, and you have some instructions that make a heading bold or that tell the web browser what is a table and so on. And in that way, LaTeX is very comparable, because also in the LaTeX source code, you need to put in some commands that tell the LaTeX compiler that then takes the document and compiles it into PDF or any other output format. What do you mean with this specific statement?
And is there a similar kind of concept like style sheets or stuff like that?
Not in a way that HTML uses CSS. But for example, you can or most people do that, you can use a LaTeX package, and inside this LaTeX package, there are some definitions or some redefinitions made. And that changes the way your document looks like. For example, you could load a specific package that loads a specific font from your computer. And then the whole document would look different because you're using a different font.
Right. We kind of dived into LaTeX, but sorry, Chris, carry on.
Yeah, these were the infamous or famous STY files, right?
Yes.
Back in the days.
It's not just back in the days. It's even today.
Hasn't changed. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, that didn't change. So the packages are usually in the form of STY files. So they have a file extension of STY, and they are plain text. You can look at them in each editor.
Yes. Martin, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, we kind of jumped into LaTeX. LaTeX, sorry. I always called it LaTeX, It doesn't matter. Yeah. But a little bit more about yourself. How did you come about spending so much time on it, and what else do you do?
Yeah, I guess it was in 1997 or 1998 when I started my studies of business administration in Berlin. And we pretty soon discovered that Microsoft Word wouldn't be a good tool to, for example, write a script for a lecture. And then I had a look at different systems, and there's a famous German computer magazine that is called CT. And each year they had a CD or a DVD, probably it was a CD at the time, and that contained a version of LaTeX. So I installed it. No, it was on a
back
CD.
in the days. Okay.
For me that was back in the days. I'm in my 40s now, so back in the days was in the mid 90s. Yeah. And I installed that and didn't get along because the way the whole system worked, there wasn't a graphical user interface, so I couldn't open it like Amy Pro, for example. At this time, I used Lotus Amy Pro. Probably one of you will remember. And
rings a bell.
Yeah, it rings a bell. It's if I say Lotus 123, that's probably rings a bigger bell. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was the time. And then in my first or second semester, I discovered that there was this LaTeX, and I looked into that. And I got pretty much hooked on. I met with the German or with the Berlin user group, like Herbert Voss and Rolf Nieprasch, some very well-known names in the German LaTeX community, and they helped me getting started. And I guess it was in January 2000, when I started at the chair of statistics and econometrics at Humboldt University. And yeah, that was very math related, and they used a lot of LaTeX. And that's where, I got really into LaTeX. And then I became a Dante member. That's the German-speaking LaTeX community. It's the biggest one in the world. We have almost 2,000 members. And yeah, since then I just got stuck with LaTeX.
I'm just curious, just to drop a few names because they were pretty instrumental at the time. Frank Mittelbach and Rainer Schöpf weren't part of this initial group that you were talking about.
Yes,
They were, okay. Wow.
I
mean these were the core LaTeX maintainers in the days, no?
Yeah, and
or still are.
Yeah, but Frank Mittelbach is today one of the few main developers of the next LaTeX version.
Which is version 7.5, if I recall correctly, right?
7.5? No.
Maybe 3?
I don't know.
2.9.
No. I wouldn't call it LaTeX 3.
Okay. Jokes aside, LaTeX 3 has been on the cards. I mean, when I finished the second book, I did it with LaTeX 2E.
Yeah.
I started with exactly. I started with 209, but then I switched over to 2E. But then already people were talking about LaTeX 3.
Yeah. I mean, you have to consider that the whole project, the whole LaTeX or tech project, has always been a project by people who were not fully employed by any organization or company to develop that. And I know Frank Mittelbach, he has been a consultant with HP for maybe 20 or 30 years. So he just did everything that he did on tech and LaTeX just in his free time at home. And so, yeah, there were quite a few side projects that led into the wrong directions. I remember something like NTG, New Typesetting System, or NTS.
I can recall it well, yes, indeed.
Yep. And I mean, the whole thing is quite complex. There have been numerous attempts to re-implement tech and to re-implement LaTeX. But yeah, I guess getting 80% is very easy, but doing the last 20%, this is what usually kills the people or the efforts. And that's why it's really difficult. But I'm looking forward, partially I'm already using packages that have been written in this new text syntax. So there's a lot going on in the background that is also or mostly driven by Frank Mittelbach and some other developers. Yeah. But he's still busy. He's still around.
That's good to know. I mean, if just changing tack a little bit, if I take a look at the tech stack, tech is mostly written in Pascal and some other ancient language. LaTeX is, of course, mostly written in tech macros and plus Lua. Apparently, Lua plays a very important part in the overall tech stack, and plus Python. If the GitHub or Subversion repository is anything to go by, can you shed some light on the technical depth that this stack introduces? Because that must be huge.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, the first tech version was implemented in Sail. That was some archaic the programming language that ran on PDP-10 machines. So I never saw one, so that was way before my time.
Martin can probably shed some light on this.
PDP-8, yeah. 10 is too modern. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So that is what I read in a book. So then I guess it was implemented in Pascal, and furthermore, the Pascal code was transferred to C. So, and as far as I can tell, what we have today as LaTeX or as tech is written in C, but there are attempts. You mentioned already Lua. That is a programming language from Brazil that has a very, very small footprint. You can ship it in form of a DLL. So it's a dynamic link library that contains everything that you need to have to use Lua. And you can embed this Lua language with the help of the DLL into other software. I've seen, like 20 years ago, I've seen games that used Lua as an internal scripting language.
Yeah, I mean, even databases use it on the server side, Martin, if I recall correctly, right?
I only know about some NoSQL swindle that use it, not an actual database.
I see. Some people consider it actually to be database, Martin, but I reckon that's their choice of terms. Yes, but sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. Sorry, that's just an internal joke.
This Lua tech or Lua LaTeX, it allows you to do interesting stuff in your LaTeX documents. I'm not so deep into that, but I have seen interesting approaches or interesting packages on the CTAN network that allowed you to interfere or interact with the LaTeX typesetting. So there was, for example, a package that showed you the gray level of the row or of the line that you typeset in form of a set of gray boxes. So, but yeah, it is very interesting. It allows certain things that you would have to do otherwise with the help of external programming languages. For example, what I've seen is I have seen libraries that allowed you to interact with MySQL databases or MariaDB databases directly from LaTeX, because you were able to get the MySQL DLL, and you could access the API from LaTeX or from Lua LaTeX. It's very interesting, and I think this will definitely be the future of LaTeX.
Can you give an example of how you would access a database from?
For example, you could do a report or something like that. So the standard way would be I would use some Python code to write the LaTeX, but that's another step that you would have to be familiar with. But you can do that directly from LaTeX with the help of Lua LaTeX and those libraries. It's quite interesting.
Or another answer would be because you can. Simply that.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
Yeah.
Because you can. Simple.
Yep.
It's changing tack just a little bit. I appreciate the fact that we're jumping all over the place, but okay, HTML was invented in the mid-90s, early 90s. Markup languages, and I seriously would consider to be LaTeX one of the primary markup languages.
Yep, totally agree.
Have been around for at least 30 or 40 years, but given the fact that most people that I know basically consume content on a mobile device, in a mobile device, maybe if they're lucky on a desktop, but most of that content would be in formats like PDF or HTML. Of course, not just with the likes of package like Pandoc or some other outputs modules, LaTeX is able to produce these formats. But given the fact that most of the people, I reckon, would produce content outside LaTeX, where do you see this going beyond? And this is a very controversial question. I appreciate the fact, but I'm just here to shake up things a little bit in terms of rocking the boat. Where do you see this going outside academia? Because academia, and probably I'm the best example for this, has been probably the most prominent user of that technology for the last 30 plus years. Where do you see this going in the future?
Well, academia, of course, is probably the biggest user group for LaTeX. But nevertheless, there are even applications in industry where it makes sense to use some LaTeX. There are a few examples. Like, for example, there's a bank in Germany that is called 1822 Direct Bank. They use LaTeX to produce their account statements.
Guys, if you're listening, sorry, the email address is sponsor@linuxinlaws.eu. Just in case. Sorry, Uwe, didn't want to interrupt.
Let me get back to my thoughts. What did I say last?
Bank statements.
Yeah, bank statements. We were talking about exactly about that bank.
Yeah. They do their bank statements with the help of tech. Then I have seen some examples, like for example Kaspersky, the antivirus company. They have they have done your manuals with the help of LaTeX.
Interesting.
I have one here in my shelf. Then, for example, do you know FLIR, who produce the infrared cameras? Have you ever
rings a bell remotely? Yes.
Yeah. They produce infrared cameras that, for example, you can connect to your iPhone. But what they produced as well was gamma ray detectors for United Nations.
Wow. Okay.
For that, and for the United Nations inspectors that went to Iran, to Iraq with the gamma ray detectors. And I know the guy who wrote the manuals for that. He had a very specific system, and he was able to take the prints from the engineering department, and he ran his scripts, and he created the documentation for all countries with this specific system on the back of LaTeX.
Very interesting. Yes.
Yeah, there are numerous companies who use LaTeX, but you will never notice.
No, indeed. And I mean, if I take a look at, I reckon, and this is just a wild guess, if I take a look at the academic publications that I read on a weekly basis, about 99%, 99.5%, I would reckon, if you look at the title page, you immediately see the tech typesetting in terms of CMS, in terms of, you just have to, I mean, people, sorry, full disclosure, if you're familiar with LaTeX, or tech for that matter, if you take a look at the original fonts that came with tech or LaTeX, you
Yes.
immediately see this.
Yeah, of course.
If you take a look at a page that is typeset with LaTeX or tech, you immediately recognize that this has been done with tech or LaTeX. And as I said, about 99.5% of the publications that I look at have this typical remembrance, for want of a better expression, with LaTeX on them. So I reckon in academia, it's still kind of the monopoly for publication in terms of a markup language.
Yep, especially in MINT areas. So mathematics, information technology, and engineering. Because when you have to typeset a lot of formulas, it really makes sense to use LaTeX. You know, I have had students who wrote their bachelor thesis with me, and I wasn't sure if I should recommend them to use LaTeX, because it's at the end of their studies, they have enough to do with their bachelor thesis. Should they learn LaTeX? But I mean, when you continue to stay in academia or in any field that has a lot of formulas, then it probably makes sense to have a look at LaTeX at least.
Now you're touching on a very interesting subject. What would you consider to be the learning curve for this markup language? And I'm again playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah, sure.
In comparison to kind of, say, LibreOffice, or even, God forbid, Microsoft Word or something like this, because it's at the end of the day, it's a markup language.
Yeah, definitely. I think it can be described as following. The learning curve is steep. It is way steeper than you would have with LibreOffice or Microsoft Word. You have to know more about it, and it is maybe harder. That's why I recommend, when you have just one, let's say 30 pages that stand between you and your bachelor thesis or your bachelor in whatever subject, then just use LibreOffice or use Microsoft Word and don't touch LaTeX. Doesn't make any sense. But when you have special requirements for your documents that are not easily possible with LibreOffice or Word, then it makes total sense to look at LaTeX. Because LaTeX has been written, or there are numerous packages that allow you to efficiently create your documents with all kinds of specifics. Take, for example, footnotes. You can easily set a footnote with LibreOffice, with Microsoft Word. That's easy. But what would you do when you need more than one footnote set? So let's just imagine you have a set of footnotes that use Arabic numbers, and then you need another footnote set that uses Roman numbers. Is that possible in LibreOffice or Microsoft Word? I wouldn't say no. I would say no.
Only with elaborate macro programming.
Yeah, you see?
You're LibreOffice aficionado, right? So maybe you can shed some light on this.
I've never used LibreOffice.
What about Mr. Visser, my co-host?
Yeah, I've used LibreOffice.
Yes, but have you ever done that use case that Uwe
multiple
just
footnotes? No, I haven't.
No, that's especially used in humanities. Like, for example, if you have a text critical edition where you have to reference a lot in the text, then you would use something like several footnote sets. And there are numerous examples of typesetting that is not possible in Word or LibreOffice. That is very, very easy, or way easier in LaTeX.
Yeah, I mean, I fully appreciate the fact, because when I published the second book, it was actually a monography in terms of I was the editor and multiple people contributed to the overall work. And BibTeX, which is an extension to LaTeX that handles bibliography references, was instrumental in publishing the book itself, because it helped me a lot to get about the 500 plus, if I recall correctly, because we're talking about a monography here, about the 500 references in order. If I would have done this with Microsoft Word, because LibreOffice at the time didn't exist, wow, nightmare. In
definitely.
case.
Let me get back to the learning curve. I have an example for you. It must have been maybe 15 years ago, when one of my friends from school wrote her thesis at university. And we talked about it and about the technology, and she said, yeah, she heard of a system that is called LaTeX, and if I knew something about it. They said, hey, it's your lucky day. And I helped her write her thesis from a technical point of view. I just prepared her the text file and told her, write your text in there. And whenever she had some additional requirements, like I want to include a picture, I want to have include a footnote, I want to do some bibliography stuff, then we said, okay, yeah, I'll show you how to do it. And it was fairly easy because she had one who she could ask. So when you are on your own and you do not have anyone to ask, then getting into LaTeX is quite difficult.
It clearly comes down to the not being able to see the end result, right? It's with any generated documentation, then you have to.
And sometimes the error messages that you get from a buggy LaTeX run, well, you need to know a lot. You need to have a lot of experience to really work with that, because a single quotation mark or a single closing bracket can prevent your document from compiling to PDF successfully.
Okay, there aren't any handy tools to check that for you then.
There are, and quite a few of them.
Okay.
But Uwe, lead the way, please.
Yeah, there are, or there may be a few tools, but nevertheless, it can be very time-consuming and frustrating to find the errors that you have in your document. So that's what I usually recommend people who want to get into LaTeX, maybe to take a course. So often universities offer LaTeX courses, and I have done some courses in some research institute in the last 2 years who there were just a few PhD students that I taught or that I got into LaTeX. Some of them already knew some basics, and we did a course like, I guess, 5 or 6 days, half day, and that was really quite helpful for them, because we also did a lot on how to track errors and how to find the solution for errors and problems.
Plus the fact that there are quite a few relevant books out there. I can recall definitely Leslie's book as the LaTeX companion being instrumental with writing the second book. Plus, and this is something for anybody who's interested in LaTeX or tech, the CTAN is a source never to be unreckoned with in that case, I suppose. In terms of, this is your go-to source for packages. And if I'm not completely mistaken, I'm just looking at a Mac that has TeXlive installed on it, and there's also these days a package manager that takes care of the nitty-gritty details that I would have to do manually about 25 plus years ago.
The getting into LaTeX has been easier. For example, when you have TeXlive, that is one of the major distributions of LaTeX. You get a package management, you get some collections that you can install. So for example, if you never need to write East Asian languages from right to left or top to down, then you can simply omit this collection. So it has become easier. On the Mac and on Windows, TeXlive already includes an editor. So basically you install everything and you can start.
that's the beauty is of this editor. Actually, I can't even remember the name, but I just took for a spin the week. If you enter your Markdown language and if you simply click a button, it'll run for you LaTeX in the background, and you
Exactly.
see the PDF output, and you immediately recognize any errors that you may have probably made.
Yeah.
So
the
in that case,
included editor
it's
is
not
TechWorks. That's the
it's
one.
not too far away from LibreOffice. I'm almost tempted to say here.
Well, yeah. It's still, you still have to compile the document to see the result, but nevertheless, yeah, it has become easier. There are also tools that allow a dynamic compilation. So whenever you save the file, the compilation is done automatically in the background.
Sweet.
It has become easier.
Thanks to that community called Open Free and Open Source Software, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
And then, speaking of which, what is the license these days that LaTeX has been licensed under? Do you know?
There is.
Am I putting you on the spot here? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. There is a LaTeX license that is pretty free. So basically,
as in permissive.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. And some packages may have a different license, but that is very rare. So, for example, if I remember, I can't remember. So I guess I have seen packages that use a different license, but normally whatever you use is completely free. There is one example. For example, in TechLive, some fonts must not be included because they are non-free. But nevertheless, TechLive contains an installer for that. So when you run the installer on your machine, this installer installs then the non-free fonts. So whenever basically the TechLive distribution should be completely free, and you can do whatever you want.
Speaking of fonts, when I started out with Tech, Computer Modern was the prevalent font. But again, we're talking about 30 plus years ago.
Yep.
But I reckon these days you can include TrueType fonts and all the rest of it. So I reckon font management has become much more
For example, there are. Let's talk briefly about LaTeX engines, because let's stay with LaTeX. So there are three major LaTeX engines. That is, an engine is a compiler. So basically, there's the PDF LaTeX compiler. Then we have XeLaTeX, that is XE LaTeX, and we have Lua LaTeX. And of all those three compilers, XeTeX and Lua LaTeX, they can handle the system fonts in OpenType or TrueType format that you have on your machine.
Before we go any further, Uwe, what exactly is a compiler in tech content?
Yep, that is a program that takes your That is a program that takes your LaTeX files and produces a PDF out of them. So,
or some other output format, like HTML or something.
Yeah, HTML is quite rare. There are a few packages that do that, but the standard is probably just PDF output.
Understood.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And with XeTeX and Lua LaTeX, you can use the system fonts. So I have already used on my Windows machine. I have used, for example, the fonts that come with Microsoft Office inside my LaTeX documents.
And because LaTeX or tech understands the metrics that are associated with the fonts, because essentially a font is just a description of how to render a single or set of letters on a given page. I mean, essentially that's what it is.
Yeah,
exactly. And LaTeX/tech can understand all these metrics that come with the font, never mind whether it's TrueType, whether it's CMS or something else.
Yeah, basically yes.
So future-proof, I suppose. Speaking of the future, where do you see this going?
I think it will for the next decades, it will be a major tool for academia and for certain project where it makes sense. So I guess one day we might see some multiprocessor capabilities, because right now LaTeX usually uses just one core. Yeah, where do I see it? I guess we will have a steady base of users, because there are still numerous people who need a tool like LaTeX and who cannot or do not want to use neither LibreOffice or Microsoft Word. So yeah, I hope that this new LaTeX version will be implemented or will be finalized soon. I mean, it's an ongoing project. LaTeX always has been an ongoing project, but I think we will see very interesting ways to work with documents.
And you're talking about LaTeX 3, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know. I try to avoid the name LaTeX 3.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have to check the correct name that is used. But yeah, then let's say the next version of Tech and LaTeX.
Okay.
I know it is in development. I'm still using parts of my standard installation that have been developed in that way. Yeah, and I think that it will be always a valuable tool, and it can help you a lot. And well, nowadays I'm even trying to get it into use with my employer. So right now we're having a few documents that we write with Microsoft Word, and yeah, the handling in Word is maybe not optimal. And so I suggested, well, why not try LaTeX? I can teach you how to use it. And that is
Can you expand on that not optimal bit in Microsoft Word for just
Yeah, it's difficult. When you copy something into Word, then you may copy as well the formatting, and the layout is not what I'm used to. That's one of the downsides of using LaTeX. You become very picky when you see bad typewriting, or not typewriting, but typesetting. When the distances between the words are really ugly, that is something that you would not see in LaTeX. And you tend to be very picky about the quality of your documents.
Very much so, yes.
Yep.
I mean, I can recall that comment when I took the second book to the publisher, and they just wanted proofs basically to feed into their printing machines, and they said, "Now look, how did you typeset this?" And I said, "I simply used LaTeX," and they were pretty impressed because the PDFs alone were sufficient enough to directly feed into their printer workflow.
Yep.
And they were quite impressed by the quality of the typesetting alone. And that was kind of mid-90s.
Yep. When you use LaTeX, you get a print quality. When you use LibreOffice or Word, you normally do not get anything that is suitable for being printed as a book. So somebody has to use a typesetting system, either a professional one or tech or whatever, to make it a print basis.
I mean, this is how Donald started it back in the day, right?
So yeah. His idea was to take the experience of 500 years of printing and put that into one software. And I mean, when you look at LaTeX documents or tech documents, they look beautiful. And
they very much do, yes.
Yeah, I remember
Maths
a discussion with friends of mine. Yeah, even if you don't have math, a friend of mine, she mentioned that she wrote her application with the help of LaTeX. And then she got interviewed, and during the interview they said, yeah, we really liked the way your application looked, and that's why we also wanted to meet you. And that was quite good, right? So it makes a difference.
Mission accomplished, I'm tempted
to
say.
Yeah, definitely. It makes a difference in the visual appearance of your documents. And
Absolutely,
the longer the documents are, the more you will see that.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, nowadays I usually don't write any books. I don't write any theses anymore. I've done my share of that, but I write all my letters in LaTeX. I have my CV in a LaTeX format, and that is where I still use LaTeX. And I mean, just yet now before Christmas, my wife had asked me for the numbers 1 to 24, each in a circle, to be printed on a PDF or on a sticker page. And I thought, well, should I use CorelDRAW? Should I use Word? Should I use any other drawing software? And then I thought, well, why not use LaTeX? So I love to use LaTeX also for those non-traditional LaTeX stuff. You can do awesome things with that.
Indeed, it's just that the learning curve might be a little bit steeper.
Just about to say, it probably comes with 30 years of using it.
Yeah.
Than the other cases.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've seen a lot of LaTeX. I've written a lot of LaTeX. It totally, it's somehow in my blood, right? So.
Yeah. Plus the fact, and I mean, we are a FLOSS podcast, so we should probably mention the fact that never mind the operating system, even you can get it on Windows, but never mind, of course, you can get all the Linux distributions. And as I said, Mac OS comes out of the box in terms of Tech Live, and you just install it; it just works.
Yep.
Same goes for Windows. Same goes for Linux, because a suitable LaTeX package or suitable tech distribution would be part of your operating system repos already.
Yeah, basically yes, that's the fact. And I have used LaTeX even on my Raspberry Pi.
Back in the days, I kind of called it when I typeset the second book on all the packages yourself, and now you simply install a package. Then you start going immediately. In terms of, there's not much you have to do. All the files are on the right places. The configuration boils down to a minimum, but without much effort, you are able to produce your first PDF, essentially.
Yeah. Basically, it just takes you a few minutes after the installation to get to the first PDF.
Yes.
I would recommend to have someone at hand that can assist you with the first steps, but once you get the idea how it works, then it is getting easier and easier and easier over time.
Can we mention your email address in the show notes? Otherwise, I reckon
there must be a forum or something, right?
Will do.
Forum or a mailing list. Yeah, you must have.
For English-speaking users, I would definitely recommend tech.stackexchange.com.
Okay, jokes aside, yes. Where can people turn to get help or support?
Yeah,
CTAN, of course, rings a bell.
Yeah, CTAN is just the archive network where you find the original packages. So whatever MikTeX or Tech Live are using in their distribution is usually taken from CTAN. So you won't get any help from the CTAN team. They are just the uploaders who take the packages that they get sent by the authors and who publish that on CTAN. So there are numerous sources. One good source also for a text system is, for example, overleaf.com. They have an online LaTeX system, so you can use LaTeX in your browser. You don't have to install anything. It just works. They also use Tech Live in the background.
Okay.
And they have a good set of introductory HTML pages for that. And then, well, as mentioned, there is tech.stackexchange.com. That's the prime forum on an international level to get answers. You need to be polite. You need to explain what you have tried. So please tell me how to do this, and this won't get you any help. But when you have shown what you have tried and you can show the core of the problem that you have, you will definitely get excellent help within minutes.
Hey. To wrap this up, there's actually one control question that we will ask. It's called Epochs of the Week, in terms of anything that has crossed your path in the last couple of weeks that you think is worth mentioning? Now, Martin normally covers Amish,
not Netflix.
education
No, nothing
sites.
to do with Netflix.
Exactly. No, sorry. No, not Martin's Netflix days are over. No, he just
I
normally
never
covers
started.
Amish adult education sites. Sorry, not education, but entertainment sites. No, so yeah. Normally I cover books, whatever. But jokes aside, Uwe, anything goes. So, what's your pick of the week, or weeks rather, as in your pox?
Oh Jesus! I didn't expect such a question. Well,
name anything.
Oh, that's difficult. Now you caught me.
Why don't you go first, Chris? Then we can have a bit of time to think.
Of course,
yeah,
absolutely. My
go
box
ahead.
would be a TV series called Happy. It's not for the faint-hearted, I might add. It's about a cop turned rogue turned drug addict who discovered let's put it this way, unicorn that leads him back to the right path. I'm not going to give away more spoilers.
Okay.
You'll find the link in the show notes, but if you're into heavyweight adult entertainment, as in on the dark side, this is your TV show not to miss. Martin, over to you.
Yeah.
If you're ready, go ahead.
Yeah, I learned now that next year the new Diablo version will be published by Blizzard. So I don't know if you have ever played Diablo, but the next version of Diablo is to be published early next year.
Okay.
So,
that sounds familiar.
And I'm really looking forward to this.
It's by Blizzard. Yeah, okay.
Martin, why don't you explain to the masses that are listening to this podcast what Diablo is?
Because we're playing game.
That's the reason why. That's the reason why I don't know about it. Okay, fair enough.
There you go.
Anything you want to explain more about this in terms of what's the over that goes for you as well? What's the background of this game? How can you get rich with it? How much Bitcoin there is to make?
It doesn't run on Linux, by the way.
It doesn't run on Linux.
Oh, mind you, no. Having said that, it does run on PlayStation. So
it runs on PlayStation, probably on Mac and Windows. And it's a hack and slay game. So you basically take a character like a monk, like a knight, or a rogue, and you kill whatever comes your way and tries to kill you.
I see. Excellent. No, Martin, you own about 25 PlayStations, don't you?
So no, just the two.
Oh, I have 5 or 6, I guess.
No, I reckon.
Oh no, I'm wrong. I've got 3 as well. Still, I got my PlayStation 1 in the attic. Yes.
Yeah, we have 1, we have 2, 3, 4, and 4 Pro. So 5 we have.
Okay. I skipped the number 2. Yeah.
I reckon I'm the only one in that posse that doesn't have one anyway.
Indeed.
But if I recall correctly, PlayStations run a BSD derivative.
They do. Yep.
So it's not exactly Linux, so it's just BSD. They share that fate, I reckon, with the likes of macOS and some other operating systems. Anyway, so Martin, what's your pox?
My pox is a television series based on a book, or a series of books by J.K. Rowling, and it's not Harry Potter. It's called Cormoran Strike, which is a private detective, and he solves cases, but it's quite well done and quite well written, so worth a watch.
By herself,
or a read if you prefer the book. Yeah, books.
So Martin, that leaves one question. Is she again in need of? Is she again in dire need of money? By the sound of it.
No, I think she does.
I mean, she must be loaded at this stage, no?
I think she owns half of Scotland or something.
No, I even would go further. I mean, half the kingdom anyway. I mean, seriously. I mean, why?
Well, if you're an author, you write books, don't you? That's
Martin. If
what you enjoy doing. This is why you do open source stuff, because not to make
Martin,
money. But,
No, but you see, the thing is, basically, she was totally broke. She sat down in the coffee shop and started to write a kind of children's book on a magical environment. And the rest, of course, as anybody knows listening to the podcast, is history. But the thing is, basically, I think she never wanted to be an author. That was just a spare time activity, which just turned into a few $billion of cash, I suppose.
I don't think it's that much, but yeah.
Martin, with all the movie and merchandising rights, I reckon it is. I mean, we're talking about what? About 7 books, 7 movies? Never mind the spin-offs? You're talking about at least $1 billion in terms of revenue, and her cut, I reckon, would be half of it. She must be loaded.
We can tell you it's what her net worth was last year, if you're interested.
The equivalent of
Peru okay, fair enough. Yeah, $1.1 billion. So yeah.
Martin, there you go.
Right, still nothing in comparison to the Elons and Jeffs out there, right? So
Martin, Elon Musk, as far as I can recall, at least doesn't write children's books. There you go. Just some sort of.
Well, don't tell him. He might start it.
No, people, and if in case you're listening,
you must cut this out of the podcast.
No. People, if in case in case you're confused, Twitter is not a children's book. No, it's not. Very important. Okay, indeed. With that, having said that, Uwe, thank you very much for being on the show. Has been very enlightening, especially in terms of catching up on past history. Let's put it this way. And with that, I would like to close the show and thank you for listening. This is the Linux In-Laws.
You come for the knowledge,
but stay for the madness.
Thank you for listening.
This podcast is licensed under the latest version of the Creative Commons license, Type Attribution Share Alike. Credits for the intro music go to Blue Sea Roosters for their song Salute Margaret, to Twin Flames for their piece called The Flow, used for the segment intros, and finally to Celestial Ground for their song Sweet Justice, used by the Dark Side. You find these and other ditties licensed under CC at Jamendo, a website dedicated to liberate the music industry from choking copyright legislation and other crap concepts.